The most consequential invention in human history is not the wheel, the printing press, or the microchip. It is an abstract concept, an invisible exchange, a promise of future labor distilled into present-day profit. That invention is debt. It is a financial gravity well, an architecture so cleverly designed that it pulls wealth from the many to the few with the inevitability of physics. Most of us participate in this system daily, either as debtors or as consumers whose world is built on a foundation of leverage. Yet we rarely pause to consider its origins, its purpose, or its genius. Debt, far from being a simple neutral instrument, is the single most profitable product ever conceived, requiring no factory floor, no raw material other than time, and no inventory other than a promise. To understand the extraordinary power of debt is to understand its core engine, interest. This is the key piece of financial alchemy. A simple loan is a trade, value today for value tomorrow. Interest transforms that trade into a machine for perpetual profit. It is the monetization of the future, the right to claim a premium on time itself. Charging interest is how the inherent risk of lending is converted into a guaranteed, compounded return. For millennia, societies wrestled with this idea. Ancient laws saw unchecked debt not merely as a financial burden, but as a corrosive agent that destroyed the social fabric. In ancient Mesopotamia, long before the rise of capitalism, rulers understood that allowing too many citizens to fall into perpetual bondage would lead to revolt and systemic collapse. They institutionalized the misharum, or debt jubilee, a periodic cleansing of obligations. The Hebrew Bible echoes this wisdom, commanding the remission of debts every 7 years and a grand forgiveness every 50. The concept was not charity, it was self-preservation. It was a societal reset button, acknowledging that debt, if allowed to accumulate indefinitely, becomes a civil poison. But history is a tale of the powerful learning to disable the reset button. Elites soon realized the true value of debt lay not in its repayment, but in the control it offered. During the medieval era, the Christian Church fiercely opposed usury, the charging of interest on moral and theological grounds, recognizing the ethical danger in profiting from another's misfortune or the mere passage of time. However, the rapidly expanding trade of the Renaissance created an insatiable hunger for credit, and financiers found clever ways to circumvent these bans. Banking families, most notably the legendary Medici of Florence, built commercial empires not on the land or the sword, but on sophisticated ledger entries. They disguised loans as currency exchanges, trade commissions, or complex partnership agreements. The debt itself was not eliminated, it was simply camouflaged. It ceased to be an open moral transgression and became an accepted financial engineering triumph. These banking houses discovered that financing the ambitious projects of kings and popes delivered not just repayment, but profound political leverage. Debt had graduated from a simple contract between two individuals to a lever capable of manipulating state power. The true transformative innovation arrived in the 17th century with the concept of permanent state debt. The rise of the Dutch Republic, fighting for its existence against the Spanish Empire, needed capital far beyond its immediate reserves. Its solution was genius, selling bonds to its own citizens. This was a stroke of financial brilliance. It allowed the state to sell the future tax revenues of the nation, to securitize the horizon, essentially, in exchange for immediate cash. Investors bought these bonds because they could be traded, creating a liquid market where a nation's obligation became a private asset. England copied and perfected this model with the establishment of the Bank of England in 1694. This institution formalized the national debt, making it a rolling, perpetual liability rather than a temporary emergency measure. The government was no longer limited by the gold in its vault. It could finance endless wars, colonial expansion, and commercial ventures by selling bonds that were guaranteed by the state's power to tax its citizens. The bankers who managed this debt became indispensable to the crown, their interests inextricably linked with the state's success. Debt was no longer a consequence of power. It became the foundation of power, fueling global imperial competition and creating a lucrative, low-risk investment class. Lending to a government that could compel its entire population to pay taxes was considered the safest bet in the financial world. As the Industrial Revolution exploded, so did the reach of credit. Factories, canals, and especially railroads, the arteries of the new economy, were built on massive infusions of borrowed money. Debt powered the engine of material progress. But the financial system wasn't satisfied with merely funding the captains of industry. It needed to tame and utilize the masses. Workers earned wages from companies financed by debt, and soon they themselves were introduced to the cycle. The era of mass consumer debt had dawned. In the 20th century, particularly after World War II, a psychological engineering project took place. Financial institutions realized that the greatest untapped market was the aspiring middle-class household. The mortgage was marketed as the sine qua non of success, the golden key to the American dream. Yet in signing a 30-year contract, families were locking themselves into a generational commitment, turning 1 or 2 homes' worth of interest payments into guaranteed, predictable corporate revenue. This model was swiftly followed by installment plans, car loans, and finally, the credit card. The ultimate tool for normalizing perpetual indebtedness. The shame once associated with borrowing evaporated, replaced by the mantra of buy now, pay later. Debt became synonymous with participation, with prosperity. It was the necessary cost of admission to the consumer society. Here lies the hidden cruelty, the true genius of the product, compounding wealth transfer. A debtor buys a physical good once. A debtor pays interest on a loan perpetually. Every interest payment is an upward funnel of wealth from millions of individual debtors to the balance sheets of a few colossal banks and investment funds. The design is not for temporary assistance, but for permanent, controlled dependency. A $200,000 house bought with a 30-year loan and standard interest rates easily translates into $400,000 or more in total payments. The product is not the house. The product is the 30 years of interest. The final phase of this evolution is financialization, the transformation of debt itself into a commodity. In the latter half of the 20th century, the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, were founded with the stated goals of stabilization and development. But their lending policies swiftly established debt as a lever of geopolitical discipline. Nations seeking aid were compelled to accept structural adjustments, effectively having their sovereignty compromised, their budgets rewritten, and their assets privatized in offices far from their own capitals. Debt became a non-military weapon, enforcing dependency and ensuring compliance with the interests of major creditor nations. Simultaneously, financial engineers on Wall Street began to dissect and reassemble private loans. Mortgages, car loans, and student debts were bundled together into complex securities, sliced, diced, and traded globally. Debt was no longer a simple contract. It was raw material for perpetual motion machines. This securitization allowed banks to originate a loan, sell the risk instantly, collect a fee, and move on to the next deal, maximizing volume while minimizing liability. Risk, they claimed, was diversified. In reality, it was simply hidden beneath layers of complexity. This system was stress-tested by the 2008 global financial crisis. Trillions of dollars in mortgage-backed securities, built on the unstable assumption of endless home price growth and mass repayment, imploded. The system did not collapse. It was rescued. Governments, demonstrating where the true power resides, intervened not to punish the creators of the bad debt, but to bail out the creditors, absorbing the catastrophic loss by shifting it onto the public ledger. This action was the ultimate reaffirmation. The financial system is designed to serve the lenders, who are deemed too indispensable to fail. In the wake of the crisis, central banks doubled down on the addiction, flooding the world with cheap money and near-zero interest rates. The crisis created by debt became the excuse to create even more of it. Today, global debt is a staggering mountain exceeding 300 trillion. More than 3 times the world's annual economic output. Never has the human species owed so much to so few. This mountain is not seen as a threat, but as growth. We mistake perpetual borrowing for genuine prosperity. Debt now functions as a powerful mirror and multiplier of inequality. Those already wealthy can access cheap credit or leverage to buy productive assets, turning their existing capital into further capital. They borrow to become richer. Those without assets are forced to borrow expensively simply to survive, trapped in cycles of high-interest consumer debt. Debt legitimizes and solidifies the class structure, polishing the distinction between the creditor and the indebted. And the next evolution is already underway. Whispered about in closed financial circles, central bank digital currencies. Imagine money that is fully programmable, traceable, and controlled at the code level. Loans could be auto-approved or denied by algorithm. Penalties could be enforced instantly. This is the perfect upgrade for the most profitable product in history. If the centuries of debt have taught us anything, it is this. Greater efficiency for the creditor means absolute control over the debtor. The ultimate lesson is one of recognition. Debt is not neutral. It is an extraordinary, deliberately refined product that converts time, labor, and hope into a stream of guaranteed interest payments that flows inexorably upward. Financial freedom is not given by this system, for the system thrives on dependency. Real wealth begins with the minimization of your leverage, the questioning of every easy credit offer, and the clear-eyed recognition that behind the promise of buy now is a powerful, time-tested machine designed to profit from the entirety of your future. From the clay tablets of ancient forgiveness to the digital contracts of the future, the pattern holds true. The borrower pays, the creditor controls, and the world is endlessly reshaped in favor of those who master the flow of money. Do not celebrate the borrowing. Understand the profound cost of the low.